coming off a bye week, enters conference play against Navy, who's in first place at 3-0, 2-0 in conference. UAB will be honoring Smile Mile this week with their black and lime jerseys. So with that, I'll kick it over to Coach.
Well, thanks for being here. I think there's two things we need to start with that are bigger than football. Number one, the tragic shooting that happened yesterday morning, or I guess it was the night before. I think number one, our hearts go out with the victims, their families. We personally have a player who was affected by it. I don't want to share details, but so it's touched our program. But it also reinforces why we built this thing for something bigger than football. It was an opportunity to talk to our players, reinforce why we're trying to build men that will have a positive impact on our communities, especially the city of Birmingham. We obviously have issues with violence. We feel like our kids here, as they grow in the program, can be role models to young kids in the city, that there's an alternative. So that's something we were able to talk to our players about. And then number two, our second-year partnership with Smile a Mile, another opportunity for our kids to live for something bigger than themselves, represent something bigger than the name on the back of their jersey, or even bigger than the name on the front of the jersey. They represent a family that's dealing with something that none of us ever want to deal with. Our family has, so that's especially important to the Dilfer family, that we're able to use football as a platform to honor and encourage people going through something a lot harder than whatever's going on the football field, whether it's the NFL, college, high school. Wins and losses are painful, but not nearly, or losses are painful, but they're not nearly as painful as the struggles we go through as families, especially families with kids battling for their lives. So on to football, another great challenge for us, which is exciting. You know, I think the cool thing about the American Conference is that every game is a war daddy. Every team, every program in this conference is unique. It's a unique challenge. This one especially, Coach Newberry's done an incredible job understanding the players on his team and what they can do better than other people, and that was proven against Memphis. They have a system in place that optimizes their players' ability, creates a ton of challenges for you, both offensively, defensively, and in the kicking game. They're very, very solid in the kicking game. So we are really, really excited about this next challenge. I think where this team is growing is, instead of having anxiety about what's next, there's an enthusiasm and excitement about the next challenge. And this is a massive challenge for us. And we look forward to seeing how we stand up against it on Saturday.
Coach, you've been here around 2 years, and I could see the impact that you're trying to make in this community with what happened over the weekend and your relationship with Woodfin. Have you talked to him? I know he's a busy guy, but just what's your take, if you could talk more about this weekend and your platform?
Well, Mayor Woodfin and I have developed a really good relationship, friendship. I think the world of him. I'm maybe one of his biggest fans. I did not reach out to him after this, simply because he's got a lot bigger fish to fry than the football coach. These are issues he's been addressing head on for quite a while. If you follow him on social media, he's very bold on his stance against these types of acts of violence, against switches, against all these things that are plaguing our community. I know he's exhausted every effort. He's brought in other resources. He's begged for other resources. He's tried to put this at the forefront of everything. And, all I can say, publicly, is that we lock arms with him. That's one of the reasons why our kids, people say, well, why do you serve so much? I think there's two reasons. Number one, you have to live life for something bigger than yourself. Life's always better when it's bigger than you. Service is a way to learn that skill. But number two, invest in the community. every community, whether it's Birmingham or other communities, has its issues. And young people, the next generation, can fix those issues. You're going to put a Band-Aid on this generation. That's about the best you can do. But you can fix the next generation. A lot of that happens because of role models. You need young people to look and see role models as those that are going to school, getting an education, playing a sport, pursuing a passion, chasing their best, climbing mountains, whatever it is, not the easy road, right? The violent road, the selfish road. And if our kids right now, they're with Food for Our Journey, serving the homeless, if that is something that is looked up to by our young people, then maybe the other life is not as desirable for young people.
Trent, what's your immediate message to the team about gun violence?
It's a great question. You know, we've addressed it. Maybe I need to do it more. We've addressed it. We've talked about it. We've talked about choices, decisions, consequences. We've talked about even though culturally sometimes you grow up where it's an understood and accepted thing, it doesn't mean it is. You know, just because how you grew up and you saw something doesn't mean that's the best way. We've talked a lot about the difference between good, bad, good, and best, right? And I think that's been one of the core themes of what we've tried to emphasize in 21 months is there are bad decisions, there are bad choices, and those come with bad consequences. There's good, you know, put good and average kind of in the same category. There's good decisions we can make, but then there's best, and let's look for best. And a lot of times when you choose the best road, it's the harder road, but also it's the more impactful road. And we're hoping that our young people can make best decisions to model that to the people that are following them. So I actually think, you know, what came up woke me up a little bit more and want to drill down and be a little more specific with some of my messaging, especially as it relates to gun violence.
Do you think the bye week came at a good time, specifically before opening up conference play?
Yeah, it was perfect. I think for a lot of reasons. One, we had the massive turd week 2. Then we had to follow it up with an SEC opponent, which I thought we responded very well from a preparation standpoint, and our general temperament of how we played that game. Our execution wasn't great. That's something we continue to work on, but the temperament, how we approached the Arkansas game was really encouraging. But it also beat us up, you know, so anytime you play an SEC opponent, you're going to get a little more battered and bruised. So it gave us a chance to heal up. Last night we were pretty healthy overall, but also kind of a reset. You know, one of our core values is resetting. I think those are small increments. You know, we talk about doing it in 8 seconds, but there's also a bigger reset. Getting ready for conference play against an opponent that creates unique challenges, be able to steal a day on them, you know, and just what they do was important. But I think just for the soul of our team, it was really good. They also got to see their families. And I remember this specifically. It was, you know, 1,000 years ago, but being able to see your family in the midst of a football season can be challenging. And when you have an opportunity to do so, it kind of recharges your batteries. And a lot of our guys came back with recharged batteries.
In the week of being able to self-evaluate, did you see anything or learn anything about the struggles of defending the run that you've had the past two games?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's something we've struggled with the whole time. It's not just been the past 2 games against equal or better opponents than us. It's been our Achilles heel. So, yeah, we took a close look at scheme, personnel, technique. You know, we looked at it from a fundamental standpoint as well. I guess that fits in the technique, but you know, at the end of the day, stopping the run is destroying blocks, running to the football, tackling, right? So we got to do a better job of block destruction. Our added length this year should help with that. And it has at times, you know, it shows at times it has. Running to the football, I think we're good, not great yet. And I think tackling, we've been better, but not as good as we need to be. So you continue to make small little changes over time, and those become big changes if you stick with them and you're consistent. But we're still in the small little changes over time phase. To think that we're going to shut down Navy's run game, I think, is probably an unrealistic expectation. I think you have to limit the damage, contain it. I think you got to win big downs. You know, the one thing that they do consistently is win the big downs in the big situations. So you have to find a way to win those downs.
Coach, we know how the game is offensive geared now, but this, still run the option stuff. What is it about this type of offense that gives so many teams problems still?
Well, they run a lot of things. The triples where it starts, the QB follow runs, all the creative wing T / triple option stuff is where it starts, and that's where they force you into a box. That's what they want to do. That's what they're best at. But now they can open you up and play more of the traditional spread game too. And their personnel, now that all starts with their personnel. They've done a great job of finding versatile personnel. So to find guys that can run the wing T, be wing players, be inside run players, be C-gap runners, be physical blockers, and also, go run verticals and run option routes and, run get open stuff it takes some unique personnel. I don't think Navy's Army would be in the same box. Air Force would be in the same thing. The academies, their players don't get enough credit. Because they don't get recruiting rankings, because they don't have the length that's ideal many times, because they're not celebrated as high school players, doesn't mean they're not really good football players. Navy has great team speed. Not good, great. Now, did they have 4-4 in the secondary? No, but they got a ton of 4-5 kids everywhere. They have offensive linemen that can run. Their fullback's 205 pounds, but he could play tailback for a lot of people. So that they have really good athletes. They're fluid athletes. I think they do a great job of identifying guys that can bend, guys that have short area qualities, guys that have strength. Their strength program is obviously very good. Their players play with great strength. So their players are better than people say they are. They say it's the academy schemes, it's a triple option. And some of that is true, but I think it is not fair to their players. They have very, very good football players that fit their system, that play extremely hard, that are men, not boys. They make decisions that men make. They make good decisions on the football field. They have a poise about them that is what you learn as you grow to be a man. So I would say overall, it's not just the skill of their players, but it's the maturity of their players that make them very good as well.
Coach, there was the scary moment in Arkansas with Brandon Buckhalter. Could we get an update on him and maybe your thoughts on that play, and if you even want Sam Pittman's
Well, the thoughts on the
comments?
play, I've looked at a lot of times. The explanation I got on the field, I actually understand. I'm not saying I agree with it, but the ref told me, hey, listen, they're making football moves. The play was continuing. It was a violent play. I don't know if it was I would not call it a cheap play. I try to put myself in the Arkansas player's shoes, and he's been trained to run to the football and finish violently and play hard, and the helmet comes off and Brandon continues to play football, and that's what that player did. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand it. Brandon's doing great. He's in concussion protocol, but his neck, his spine is fine. The things that we're most scared about, not to minimize the effects of a concussion from somebody that's had many. But I think, after considering how scary that was, he's in a pretty good situation.
Coach, playing close last week against Arkansas, a team that SEC, what does that do for your team going into this week? Is there
Well, I
moral
don't think-
victories?
There's no moral victories, but I think there's an approach that you find confidence in. Every athlete has a one-on-one matchup in a game, right? And when you're getting killed in that matchup, your team might be successful, but you're like, ooh, I'm out over my skis and I lose confidence. That was not the case against Arkansas. We won a lot of one-on-one matchups. We stood up physically pretty well to them. And then I think you watch them play Auburn. Our kids watch that game. You know, everybody has YouTube TV or one of the TVs that shows two screens. I watched every Memphis snap and I watched every Auburn snap at the same time. And they watched and they're like, oh, we did better than Auburn did in some things. And they gained confidence in that. I think we were extremely disappointed that once again we didn't do the little things it takes to win football games. But I think you can gain confidence in knowing that our approach is getting better, that we are improving. It's hard sometimes when you have a losing record, both coaches and players, to see the improvement. It's like seeing the glass half full or half empty, right? I mean, it's a simple life principle. Are you optimistic or are you pessimistic? And I think we've taken an optimistic viewpoint of what we got out of the Arkansas game. Now, I also told them that after Georgia, where we felt pretty good about how we stood up last year as a new group, that we went 1-4, 1-3 in the next 4. So none of that matters unless it turns into better performances the next week. But we do believe we have a group that is focused on just chasing their best and being better every single week and seeing where that takes us.
When you're playing this Navy offense, it's kind of a two-part thing, but how important is it to get off the field when you can, the way they can hold the football, and on the same side, how important it is do you feel like you really have to take advantage of your offensive possessions more than maybe a typical game?
I think all that is definitely those are real conversations. So the problem with the issue Navy creates is they have a scalpel and a machete. Have I ever given this talk on the scalpel versus machete, butcher versus surgeon? So a surgeon and a butcher both have sharp tools, right? A butcher chops meat. It's a great job, very valuable, but at the end of the day, makes you a pastrami sandwich. A surgeon saves your life with a scalpel. And in football, you know, many teams either have the machete or they have the scalpel. They have the ability to chop you in half with one swipe, or they can nick you and make you bleed out. And typically that's the DNA of most offenses, right? They're one or the other. They're typically not both. Navy's both. Navy can nick you and you look down, you're a puddle of blood because you've given up 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives and all they've done is 4, 3, 4, 6, 3. You know, there's that approach and they're fine with that approach. They have no problem playing that way. Or you load up and you're like, okay, you're not going to bleed us out. And that used to be the way you stop these teams, right? Back in the day when I was playing against the triple, I remember our Jim Sweeney, one of the greatest coaches ever lived, say, hey, you gotta absolutely sell out to stop the dive and stop the pitch, right? And if they throw a play action pass, you got to rally to it. They're not going to do that much. They're not very good at it, right? And that's how you stop them. No longer. You know, these coaches are smart. Their players are smart. They have counters. So great, you want to load up, and you're not gonna die by 1,000 cuts. Then they're gonna, you know, run a misdirection play or a pass or something takes advantage of you selling out. They're gonna go 70 on you, and break out the machete. So that's the challenge. Is you have to play sound fundamental football, and you have to defend 11 players. It's no different than when you see these spread teams that have a dynamic runner at quarterback that can also throw. You're defending 11 on 11, where traditional old school football is 11 versus 10 because the quarterback wasn't a runner. So it's a brilliant way to play offense. A lot of us traditional offensive guys are incorporating more of these principles into their offenses because we know how hard they are to defend and the conflict it creates, but there's only so many practice reps. And I think one of the reasons I admire Coach Newberry, Coach Monken, these other coaches, is they have somehow found a way to create a practice plan where they get enough reps of all the things that create challenges for you. And honestly, I'm trying to learn from them.
Navy was the only team that held you guys under 20 points last year. They held you to 6. Is there going to be any extra energy from you and the offensive players to come out and give them a run?
You know, that's a danger, I think, is making revenge or making one game, one situation bigger than it really is. We didn't play very well offensively, obviously. And I think the focus has been on playing better. Now, they create some challenges for us. You know, one thing that their defensive scheme does is it takes advantages of some of your rules, some of your principles, and we learned that the hard way last year. So I think we've taken a learner approach to Navy, tried to understand them better, tried to learn their why they do what they do defensively, and try to create a more sound plan against that to help our kids be successful. And then our kids need to understand that they don't have to chase ghosts. They can trust us. You know, I heard a great quote. I'm not going to say who, but I'm going to steal it and make it my own. Not giving him any credit whatsoever. I used to do this to Schlereth all the time. The first time I'd credit him, Mark said this on TV. Second time, I said it. And I would just say it enough that people thought it was my thing. So this one I'm just taking. You know, the coaches do all the thinking so that the players can play fast. Let us do the thinking for you during the week. That's what we get paid to do. That's why we're here late hours. We want to do all the thinking for our players. So on Saturday, they can go play fast. And I think what happens sometimes, I know this happens, this is what happened against ULM. We expected them to think too much. And we put them in a in a disadvantaged situation. There's a better way of saying that, but you guys can make fun of me. We have to think more for them during the week so they can just go out and play football. And that is kind of our goal this week.
And Trent, it's been almost a month since you guys have played in Protective Stadium. How excited are you just to have another home game and have the home crowd on your side?
Pumped. I mean, our kids have talked about it. We're pumped about the Smile Mile opportunity. The kids will be out and the families will be out Thursday for practice. Ticket sales are ahead of schedule. It's obviously an awesome football weekend in the state of Alabama. So we're excited that we got the early kick. You know, it gives Auburn and Alabama fans the opportunity to come to the game and then still get to their alma mater's game or watch their alma mater on TV. We're just really excited about it. We love our stadium. We love our home crowd. Our kids are energized by representing the city. They've worked so hard to serve over the off season. We're creeping up on 3,000 hours now served in our community. So these are things that some people just kind of roll their eyes at. To us, it's a big deal.
Anything else? All right, Coach.
All right, appreciate you guys. Thank you.